viewers, and I'm privileged to have in my presence a former teacher of mine, the Honorable Joseph Walcott Parry. And it's a distinguished honor to interview my former teacher. But before we get into that, let me just inform you that these are some generational independence excerpts. We're talking about Independence 40, the significance of Independence 40, and I don't think we could have chosen a better man to start with than J.W. Parry. Now, Mr. Parry, the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis back in your day, and maybe prior to your day, has always had some troubled times. We would have gone through sessions of wanting secession. You remember those days?
Yeah.
Wanting secession. And then one of the days it happened that there was an election. And whether it was a convenience marriage, you'll tell me, the People's Action Movement and the Nevis Reformation Party, which previously talked secession, linked up in a union to form a government. Out of that union, talks, discussions ensued, and eventually we became an independent nation. That tumultuous relationship, talking secession, then a unified Paminapi government, having independence. Talk us through that.
In the first place, I have to take you back before 1980. I went to school last year in 1965 to 1967. And at that time, divisions and Angolans too had serious problems with St. Kitts, with the federal government in St. Kitts. Basically because the way the government was set up, it had the power, the executive in St. Kitts, a representative from Nevis and one from Angola sitting in the parliament, but not in the federal government as such, we may call it that, the executive council. And they felt that decisions that were made in St. Kitts left out St. Kitts and Nevis. I remember very well that divisions used to complain that, say you had an ambulance and a new one was coming, the new one went to St. Kitts, the second hand went to Nevis, and the third hand went to Angola. And people got very, very angry over that. I myself, as a young man, a young boy, teenager, thought it was a bit hard on divisions. I used to see the old ambulance or the old police van, and I think, felt that that was not good enough. Only to realize later that it was not really St. Kitts' fault.
Oh.
No. The money came from Britain.
Oh. And the directives came from Britain?
No, the money that came from Britain was not enough to buy three.
Oh, okay.
3 police vans or 3 ambulances.
Okay.
And so you had to be like how the mothers used to treat the children, the big girl got a new dress, that old dress hand me down, and that is what was happening. So, because Britain didn't seek to develop these islands, once they had exploited them and had taken sugar, cotton, tobacco, whatever it was, out of these islands, and the soil had deteriorated, the British fortunately left. What they left us with was an administration, but no development at all. The whole idea of colonies was to support the mother country, for the mother country to develop from these colonies. And when the colonies could no longer help, for them to be let loose. And so you had this talk of secession very seriously in 1960-61.
And you would have been an advocate.
I was part of it. I was young. I was young. In 1961, I would have been about 12, 13. And I was using while when I was then the politician the lyric group of divisions on a Sunday to St. Kitts to demonstrate for secession for Nevis. And secession meant separation from St. Kitts, but not to be an independent country. It meant to continue to be directly linked to Britain as a colony. And so there we were. And the British tried to solve that in 1967 by giving a government with the central government in St. Kitts and a local government in Nevis. But the Anguillans had none of that.
They revolted.
They had revolted by in 1967, so that never took place. The local government in Nevis functioned up until 1983. In 1970, of course, you had the sinking of the Christina, which made it even worse because, again, we just blamed the federal government for having a boat like the Christina. Many lives lost, I'm sure, over 300 lives lost. And at that time, because of the structure of government, many civil servants on the English went down and died. The classmates of mine died. I was fortunate in that day because I had just come back from university, my first year in university. I taught for a month at St. Thomas's Primary. And I wanted to go to St. Kitts to spend money. I did it. We never did. And that morning, I just was so lazy to get up, but I didn't go. As my uncle in St. Thomas said, he was quite sure I was there. He didn't know I could swim though. And so you had the Nevis Reformation Party born out of the sinking of the Christina. You can hear the total desolate situation of Nevis. People ran away from Nevis. People went off to the Virgin Islands, they went off to Canada. Of course, people were going to England and all that. And people turned to the Nevis Reformation Party.
So we had a kind of brain drain.
You had a brain drain, but you were always having a brain drain because if you wanted to get promotion, you had to go to St. Kitts. And many people are already going off to Canada and to England, etc. It just got worse. The Nevis Reformation Party was formed in October 1997, and that party was formed on the basis of secession at all costs.
At all costs.
At all costs.
Emphasis on all costs.
Yes. And they made many representations to England. And Mr. Brasher died, I think it was about 1917 or thereabouts. Major meeting in 1979. Which was sent to the St. Kitts and Nevis government, led by Limo at that time. Independence, and 18 months after a referendum.
Okay.
That didn't make any sense. How do you get to an independent country to have a referendum after? And then with 2/3 majority of Kiddishan and division.
Wow, you never get it.
It is natural that Kiddishan will vote.
That we stay together.
And division will vote against. But the population would make a difference.
Exactly.
So it was totally, we were desolate, we were angry, we had nowhere to turn. What happened though? Limo made a mistake. President Limo made a mistake. He had an election in '79, and the People's Action Movement won a seat. Dr. Kennedy Simmons, I think. First of all, it wasn't declared to the Palm seat, but there was an election.
Okay.
Sorry, they went to court, sorry.
Okay.
And the court declared that Simmons
won.
And Limo decided Simmons was not going to go to Parliament. So he called another election.
Thinking that he was going to win.
Thinking that he was going to win another seat. And in 1980, February, Palm won 3 seats. And NLP won 2 seats in Nevis.
And Labour won 4.
Labour won, yeah.
Labour won 4.
Yeah,
so 3 and 2 were 5.
Yes. And so the government was formed.
But before the government was formed, I don't think it was as easy as that. They had to come over and negotiate.
Yeah.
And then remember you all were vexed already with them.
Well, I was at that point. At that point, I was not in the mix.
Oh, okay.
No, I wasn't in the mix.
Okay.
I was at Social Security.
Okay.
I left teaching in 1978 and I had become manager, the first manager of the Social Security branch in the US. So there I was. But if the truth be told, I had already applied to go off to CXC.
Okay.
I wasn't going to stay here in that situation.
That's it.
I was married, a young man with 2 children and a young wife, and I said, no, I'm leaving. And I was supposed to go off to CXC. I actually got a job to go off to CXC.
Wow.
So when we had the election, and NRP and PAM formed the government, Simon said to Mr. Daniel, you have to tell the party to make up his mind what he wants to do. But he wants to be permanent secretary in Nevis, of Nevis Independence, or he wants to go off to Barbados. I thought about it. I had a mother, I had a grandmother, 2 little children, not so sure about the future. I love Nevis, so I stayed.
Okay.
Now,
But you must have been skeptical about that relationship though, NRP coalition. Some people said collision.
anything at that time.
Anything.
Anything at that time. There was no skepticism at all.
Okay.
And the part of division.
Once Labour was out at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just totally
Okay.
joyful.
Okay.
Celebrating everything.
Okay.
Now, what happened very quickly is that like roads were built. The airport was lighted in December 1980. You know, remember that?
Okay. Yeah.
First time the airport was lighted. When the Christina sang, they had to cast at the door of the airport.
Yes.
For
Carlets.
yeah. Well, I remember I was on that plane that the first one took off.
Okay.
I was the permanent secretary.
Okay.
Mr. Daniel was on it. I was Stephen on it. I think Fonson was on it.
Okay.
And that plane that took off. And the airport was lighted by Mr. Frank DeLean.
Okay.
And what happened? We had the electricity expanding, water expanding, more persons in Nevis getting jobs. The Ministry of Nevis Affairs, I was the only permanent secretary at that time.
And the Sixth Form College.
And the Sixth Form College. And that was an initiative by Mr. Daniel and Mr. Stevens, which I encouraged, because when I went to Sixth Form, it was very tough.
St. Kitts.
In St. Kitts. You see, in fact, 3 of us went to Sixth Form that year. Myself, Vance Emery, former Premier Nevis, and my wife, who was diagnosed.
Okay.
And when you go to St. Kitts, I mean, it's hard to find a place to stay. And if you stay with family,
There's a lot of rules and regulations.
This is poor.
Yeah.
At 9 o'clock at night,
Lights
I
up.
could hear the old man coming, shuffling his feet. Mr. Parry. Mr. Parry. Still up. Still up, sir. Still up. 15 minutes ago, Mr. Parry. So, that I did not mean that I had to go to sleep.
Turn off the lights.
In the end, sometimes I just went to the movies, walked the streets of Boston, met with friends, because it was so much pressure. I knew what happened, so I really encouraged Mr. Stevens and Mr. Yeah. I'm not taking credit for it.
I understand.
But I knew the circumstances. And so that happened. It was a fantastic thing, really. We were able to achieve a number of things. Nevis was the first OECS country that allowed everybody from primary school to go to secondary school between 1980 and 83. You had all these changes at division. So now the question was what to do, because
This referendum thing still hanging over.
what to do, and they agreed with constitutional talks of England that they would go into independence as a body, NRP, or NRP, and 18 months later they could have a referendum.
Okay.
I think the referendum was sort of the own definitions.
Okay.
And living in Nevis. But that never happened. By 1983, 18 months later, people were busy with the development of Nevis, the continuation of the expansion of electricity, water. You had your own government. You had to do quite a number of things. You had permanent secretaries, assistant secretaries, people who that never happened before.
And a whole administration.
And I give credit to that to a gentleman by the name of Joseph Mills, who was the permanent Secretary of Finance in St. Louis, who was from government work actually.
Okay.
You know, his brother.
Okay.
He and I put that administration together. So I will take credit
For that.
for having done for having put the administration together. Sussin.
Okay.
But Sussin was the financial genius.
Okay.
So he was the one who organized the financial part.
Okay.
So we had an administration on the island of Nevis, and here we are with the same administration.
Looking back though, 40 years down the road, sometimes people get into a marriage and the honeymoon is good. There are improvements to live on your own, and then the arguments start up, the debates. 40 years down the road, what are your thoughts?
A good question. Mr. Nando died as a secessionist. I don't think the others were as keen as he was. If you ask about, because by then I had become mature and I was permanent secretary. Yeah. And I looked at the situation from an economic point of view, and I couldn't see how Nevis could survive at that time. And let me explain what was my problem. First of all, when Nevis started, it started with $250,000. You see.
From, well, that was in the treasury.
Mr. Daniel took it up from the national bank. He was the Minister of Finance.
Okay.
And he sees that.
Okay.
That is how it started. You know,
Okay. Okay.
With a lot of efforts, etc., etc. And the Four Seasons came.
Yeah.
There was an arrangement, a financial arrangement, where every year they think it's finance that we need finance and have reconciliation. It was based on population. And after the consolidation and the division according to population, money from St. Kitts came to Nevis. Just about the Nevis treasury.
Yeah.
When the Four Seasons opened in 1991, and they had the reconciliation to do, Nevis also St. Kitts money. And you see, that's crazy. Look at the country. Look at the low level of development. How can you give money to St. Kitts when you were yourself, etc.? And so that situation
Had to be adjusted.
That situation, it was never adjusted, you know.
Okay.
It remains today.
Okay.
All that happened, he sell his own money,
Okay.
and think he sell his own money. And looking at that situation, I told myself, look, you know, we have to be realistic. What you need is to try to have maybe a stronger local government in Nevis and try to develop Nevis with your own resources.
Okay.
At the same time, continue to be part of the federal government. I saw the benefits of the unity
Okay.
rather than separation.
Okay.
The other thing was family. I wouldn't even say friends.
Blood
family.
Blood family.
My grandfather, this land belonged to him. He was married to my grandmother, but he had a child in St. Kitts.
Okay.
And he was a fisherman. Many fishermen in Nevis had to family. You know, what do? Do you just sever and separate everything and pretend? I look at the referendum that we had in 1998. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And the irony of all of that is that you had the referendum day one, and day two, divisions at the pier trying to go to sleep. If that's what's at taking place, what would have happened? The British never intended for St. Kitts and Nevis to separate. The British never expected that Nevis would have developed so quickly. But the hotel made a difference. But there's another point for me. And this is a very strong point as a black man. You have one hotel in Nevis, the Four Seasons. This hotel is bigger than your government. This hotel, you lose this hotel and 40% of your GDP disappears right away.
Okay.
What do you expect to happen? The hotel will own the government.
Sure.
The hotel will control the people. And I told myself, you know, I could not make that decision as a black man, as a Nevisian, as a West Indian, knowing the whole background of slavery and colonialism, and the fact that economic investments from abroad came to control. And they came because wages were low. They didn't come to develop St. Kitts or Nevis or these islands. They came to benefit for themselves.
Exploit.
And you know what? I don't think today divisions were like that. Up to today.
Okay.
And you know why I said this? I remember in the Nevis Independence, I think it was 2000. It's on money. It's on taxes. And I, as president of Nevis, went to Compton on Friday night and made a statement that if they don't give us the money by Monday, they will see what happens. They gave the money. But you know what Nevis said? Oh, Parry, put our job in jeopardy. Yeah, and they went against me. Kittians praised me and praised NRP. Nevisians didn't remember that they had no job before.
That's it.
And that is the biggest problem I think we have.
Mental slavery, maybe?
I'm not going to say that on TV. What I would say, trade unionism was very strong in St. Kitts and helped to move St. Kitts to where it is today. There was never any trade unionism in Nevis. We have never learned to work together.
That's true.
We have never learned about collective efforts. And those things are very, very important in life and still apply to Nevis today.
Mr. Parry, as we wrap up this very intriguing interview, I just wanted to look into the camera. Independence Party and all. Maybe you could just say Happy Independence to the good folks who are viewing as we close out this interview.
Well, happy independence to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I would say this, that we have come far. We have had many struggles, many differences. But what is very interesting and very positive is that young people, people under 30, 25, between St. Kitts and Nevis, don't have the burden that we the older ones have to carry. There's much movement, more movement between the islands. There's socialization. People are going down for a night, people are coming over for a night, people are going down for a weekend, people are coming for a weekend. You have Culturama, you have music festival, you have mango festival, you have carnival. And this is how I think we need to look at it, or we need to develop and understand the differences, but understand the similarities are greater than the differences. And yield to each other so that we can live as a country and as a community for the betterment of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
So folks, you have heard it from J.W. Parry. I don't want to add anything to that. Those are words that are well said, and I sincerely wish everyone happy Independence.